The former Chief Economic Advisor Arvind Subramanian has defended the prompt corrective action framework for debt-ridden banks. Now, this issue, remember, has been a flashpoint between the government and the RBI, with the centre asking for some relaxation to the stringent rules as it curbs lending by some of the weak banks. But Subramanian believes that PCA is the right move and banks may not grow their way out of the bad loan mess. Subramanian also called for an asset quality review, or AQR, of the NBFCs similar to banks, and also warned against political appointments to the RBI board.
I'm wondering whether we should not have a similar AQR type thing for the NBFCs, because again, this is one of those situations where everyone knows kind of things, but no one is willing to be explicit about it. And so the not being explicit maybe, demobilizes action. So I'm wondering whether, we should have something like that, put the thing on the table and then generate the political momentum for that as well. The PCA framework remaining and being strengthened. And I think the RBI has done a very good job on it. Just to add to that, I heard, for example, someone saying that, we must grow our way out of the PCA problem, right? It struck me that it was the imprudent lending that got us into this in the first place. So if you lend more, I think lending more, if you had better governance, better incentive structure, you can be more confident. But if this is going to be a repeat of the past, then I do worry about that.
All right, some important statements there coming in from the former CEA. But the Jet Airways stock was also under pressure today. Once again, the cash-strapped airline is in talks with its foreign partner Etihad and the Tata Group, hoping to secure some immediate fund infusion. Now, there have been reports that Yusuf Ali, the chairman of Abu Dhabi-based Lulu Group, could be interested in Jet Airways. But speaking to cnbc TV 18, Yusuf Ali made it clear that he has no interest in Jet Airways and pointed out that the airline has access to funds via Etihad.
We have been hearing about you taking a role in investing in an Indian carrier, that is Jet Airways. Can you just comment on that?
At this juncture, we didn't decide to invest in any airlines in India. Right. Because I think that civil aviation industry or the aviation industry is not my core business. Right. I will invest and concentrate in my core business, shopping malls and hypermarkets and other hospitality sector.
So has Jet Airways reached to you at least to use your access to and your proximity to the UAE family?
No, because Jet Airways has got their own accessibility with the Etihad and other people. Right.
All right, let's revisit the top story that we're tracking today, and that is the legal battle now between Kotak Mahindra Bank and the regulator, Reserve Bank of India. Now, remember, Kotak Mahindra Bank has decided to move the Bombay High Court against the RBI's decision to prohibit the bank from reducing its promoter holding by using preferential share issuance. Lata Venkatesh is here with us now to analyze this. Lata, is this really unprecedented, a bank challenging or taking the regulator to court?
No, it's not unprecedented. Shareholders of several banks, Global Trust Bank, etc., have all taken Reserve Bank to court. Reserve Bank has been taken to court several times, and including by banks. But yeah, for the first time, perhaps such a large bank in such a tricky situation. Now, sources close to, legals who seem to know the matter from the Kotak Mahindra angle tell us the following. One, that Kotak believes it is not in violation of the law, and they're only seeking the court's opinion to validate their stand, because they wrote to Reserve Bank several times after Reserve Bank rejected their preference share argument and tried to give their legal position. The Reserve Bank did not reply, and so they had to take a legal opinion. Now, the Kotak viewpoint appears to be, from legal sources, that in all their various license communications with the Reserve Bank, the word paid-up capital was used. At no point was shareholding or voting percentage used. As well, they point out to several Reserve Bank guidelines on buying a stake in private banks, either by foreigners or by Indian entities, the reference is always to paid up equity up until 2013, when for the first time you had guidelines for the new banks, IDFC and Bandhan. It was only in that time that the word shareholding or voting shares was used, and it was very clearly used in 2016 when the guidelines were tweaked for after the on-tap licenses guidelines were used. And even there, in some paragraphs, the usage is paid up capital, and in some paragraphs it is shareholding and voting shares. So their point is that as far as their communication was concerned, it was entirely paid up capital, and they were themselves not aware that that preference shares are not eligible to be counted as paid up equity, because in several cases, and the lawyers were rattling out cases, even in the Cyrus Mistry case, the preference shares were counted as paid up equity of Tata Sons. And they could cite several precedents where paid up equity preference shares are always included in paid up equity. The bank itself said that they are the regulated entity and not Uday Kotak. So if the bank has been asked to bring down the shareholding of the promoter, all that they can do is to increase the number of shares or do a merger, which they have sincerely tried to do QIPs and look at all kinds of mergers. But they haven't found anything so far. And according to the lawyers, the plea from the Kotak stable is that they will continue to do that, but they don't want to do it with a gun of, the regulatory compliance on their head, because then they will always be a distressed buyer. So that's the point the lawyers seem to be making, that, RBI cannot tell Uday Kotak to sell, because Uday Kotak is not a regulated entity. They can only tell the bank that you cannot have a promoter of over 30%. Your 30% promoter has to come down to 20. The only way the bank can comply is by issuing shares. And what will they do with 30,000-40,000 crores to bring down Uday Kotak's stake? As well, they were also wondering, the lawyers, that if Mr. Kotak were to sell his shares and sat with such a large amount of money, other investors will always worry whether he will put it in rival entities. So they seem to think of that also as a point of worry. And finally, their point is that the lawyers said they're only trying to validate their standpoint, that the legal action is being taken more by way of abundant caution, lest on December 31 a big penalty is slapped on them. Now, of course, our reply to that was, but why? Bandhan has not been slapped with anything like that. It's only been told that you cannot open branches. The worry is that they may not be given the same penalty. They could be given something else. And so this is also a move by way of abundant caution.
Now, exit polls on the elections held in 5 states have predicted a comeback for the Congress in Rajasthan and a tight race between the BJP and the Congress in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. The counting of the votes will take place tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and the results will start pouring in soon after. CNN News 18's Maria Shakil is with us now to take us through the latest and what we should be expecting tomorrow. Maria, the final verdict, what should we be expecting?
The results tomorrow are very important, particularly for the Congress party, because if they manage to win 3 states, these 3 incumbent states of the BJP, as the exit polls are indicating, if they go in the Congress's kitty, that certainly would mean that it would emerge as a challenger to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. So far, that opposition space has been about confusion. An attempt at Mahagathbandhan would also mean that the Congress will be the primary party around which all the opposition parties will unite, and hence, it will have a greater bargaining power, be it with Mamata Banerjee in the state of West Bengal or with Sharad Pawar in the state of Maharashtra, also in the states down south. It can look for newer allies, and allies will be open to doing business with the Congress party if it manages to retain or to really win these 3 states. For the BJP, it has to go down to the drawing board and understand that perhaps what they have been thinking so far as anger in particular, and perhaps in some pockets only, of farmers' distress or and the implementation challenges regards to GST, if it actually means that the BJP is voted out in all 3 incumbent states, particularly Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, where it has been in power for 15 long years and where they are pretty confident that their development activities, be it Awas Yojana or the Ujjwala Yojana, has translated on ground. If it is not able to, retain these 2 states, then it will have to really do some serious thinking, because 6 months down the line is the big Lok Sabha polls, and if they are not able to control the narrative, it would also mean that its allies would be able to assert themselves more in the state of Maharashtra. The Shiv Sena could do so in the state of Bihar. Nitish Kumar would be doing so, and hence it will be very, very difficult and more in an uncertain space. But certainly, as far as the party is concerned, the BJP, they are fairly sure that they will be able to retain the state of Madhya Pradesh in particular. But even the markets, if you look at it, they have calculated that the state of Rajasthan, which has always voted out the incumbent, would go in the Congress party's kitty. But what about Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh? If the Congress manages to win Madhya Pradesh, I think that will be really the feather in the cap.
All right, Maria, thank you very much for bringing us those details. The results, remember, will be out tomorrow. Now, it's going to be a day of mega meetings in New Delhi, a day ahead of the Parliament's winter session. After an all-party meeting, the Prime Minister is set to meet top BJP and NDA leaders. Several opposition leaders will also get into a huddle to discuss the plans for a grand alliance for 2019.